Everybody, let's stand and face Jerusalem and open up. The Lord is my light.
The Lord is my light.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
Whom shall I fear?
Whom shall I fear?
The Lord is the strength of my life.
The Lord is the strength of my life.
Of whom shall I be afraid?
Of whom shall I be afraid?
When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes,
even mine enemies and my foes,
came upon me to eat up my flesh,
came upon me to eat up my flesh,
they stumbled and fell.
they stumbled and fell.
Though an host should encamp against me,
Though an host should encamp against me,
my heart shall not fear.
my heart shall not fear.
Though war shall rise against me,
The war shall rise against me.
in this will I be confident.
In this will I be confident.
One thing have I desired of the Lord,
One thing have I desired of the Lord,
that will I seek after,
that will I seek after,
that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life,
that I might dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life,
to behold the beauty of the Lord,
to behold the beauty of the Lord,
and to inquire in his temple.
and to inquire in his temple.
I just read to you Psalm chapter 27, verses 1 through 4. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading and doing of his word. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Yes. Happy Sabbath, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Yes. And Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath to all the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Thank the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the Lord God of Israel, King of Israel, Lord of the Sabbath, creator of all things, for allowing us to wake up and see another day on his glorious Sabbath of rest. Today's lesson is called, Who is Ishmael? And if anybody's on social media, you may have heard Esau is Ishmael. Or you may have heard that Ishmael is Esau. If you haven't, keep living, you will. Because you got a lot of people thinking they get things confused, and it's really just a lack of understanding. So we're going to show you today who is Ishmael and who is not Ishmael, and it's going to show you something on the way of some other things that need to be cleared up. So open up your Bibles to Genesis 16. Genesis chapter 16. Genesis 16, beginning with verse 1. Abraham and Sarah, before their names was changed to Abraham and Sarah. Abraham and Sarai. Abram and Sarai, before their names was changed to Abraham and Sarah. Verse 1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. That means she wasn't able to make kids. The Lord hath restrained me from bearing. And I pray thee, go in unto my handmaid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarai. Now you know, she's saying, go in unto my handmaid. You think a man gonna turn that down? So he did, and he conceived a child. Well, I'm gonna read on verse 3. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her handmaid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. But when the Bible says these two become one, these twain become one flesh. A man shall leave his father and his mother and shall become twain with his wife. So anybody that you have sex with, that becomes your spouse, that becomes your mate. So he lay with her and she became his wife, his second wife. Verse 4. And he went out unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, My wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judged between me and thee. Verse 6. But Abram said unto Sarai, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand. do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way of to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence comest thou? And whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. Verse 9. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress and submit thyself under her hands. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. Verse 11. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. So this is Abraham, or Abram and Sarai's first son. They call his name Ishmael. Now I went, skip to verse 15. It says, And Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. So that's just to confirm who his son is, which is Ishmael. Throughout the lesson, we're going to point out who he is. Genesis 25, one verse here, verse 12. Genesis chapter 25, as in the lesson it says, These are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian bare. Genesis 25, verse 12. It says, Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son. So we just confirmed who his daddy was. His daddy was Abraham. Whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. So we know that Abraham is Ishmael's daddy. So the book says Abraham's a father of many nations, right? Okay. Go over to Genesis 35. Genesis chapter 35 and one verse here, verse 29. This is talking about Esau and Jacob, because there's a lot of people saying that Esau is Ishmael, which he's not. We're going to show you that we just showed you who who Ishmael's daddy is. We're going to show you who Esau's daddy is. Genesis 35 and verse 29. And Isaac gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people, being old and full of days. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Whose sons was whose was Isaac's sons? Esau and Jacob. So if Isaac was Esau and Jacob's daddy, and Ishmael's daddy was Abraham, those are two totally different people. So that just go to show you right there, but we're gonna get a little more depth to it, who Ishmael is and who he's not. Turn to it's a history book. I don't have the actual physical book, so big shouts out to Brother Doug in Louisville and Sister Rosalind in Indiana for helping me with the research. This is from Wagnalls Encyclopedia, page 461, and it's talking about Ishmael. It says, in the Old Testament, the elder son of the Hebrew patriarch Abraham, and the reputed ancestor of a group of Arabian tribes. And that reminds me, thank you, Sister Tiffany, for, I guess it was either last week or the week before when I was saying Arabs. I did not realize that that's a derogatory term or derogatory way of saying their name, because, I'm from the city and, they were always around us, just like the Edomites were always around us. Go to the northern suburbs of Chicago. You will see Esau and Ishmael living side by side, even working side by side. But I heard my daddy call them that all the time, and they never acted strange. They responded to it. But later on, when I came to the truth, I started calling them Ishmael. I started calling them who their real name is. I Bible. And he never tripped about that. But yeah, I didn't realize that was like somebody calling me a nigga. So I apologize. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, so I would not pronounce it Arabs. Now I'm gonna skip down. It says Ishmael. Okay, it says the elder son of the Hebrew patriarch Abraham and the reputed ancestor of a group of Arabian tribes. Hagar and her son fled to the south. Ishmael settled in the wilderness, married an Egyptian woman, and became the progenitor of 12 tribes of desert nomads. Just like in the book Zondervan Pictorial Bible Dictionary, it says that Ham is the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. It says that Ishmael was the progenitor of the 12 tribes of desert nomads. We're going to read that in the Bible, where it said 12 princes. The region occupied by these Ishmaelites included most of central and northern where? Arabia. So, that shows you where they dwelt, in the wilderness. Now that was one history book. I'm gonna go to another history book. This is Harper's Bible Dictionary talking about Ishmaelites. Ishmaelites, and this is page 432 and 433. It says Ishmaelites, those who are related to Ishmael, the descendants of Ishmael who are listed by name in Genesis 25, verses 13 through 16. We're going to read that, I believe. They are also called Midianites, because Joseph was in Egypt. His brothers sold him into slavery to the Ishmaelites, who were also called Midianites. The latter reference, okay, that's enough of that. So Ishmaelites and Midianites are Arab nations. Now, let's see. Okay, turning your Bibles to Genesis 25 again. There we go, pick it up at verse 13, talking about Ishmael, or the Ishmaelites. Wait, no. This is talking about, okay. Oh, this is to point out who Esau is, who his daddy was. Genesis 25, beginning with verse 19. It says, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. Now, I'm going to skip down. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Verse 13. Let me go back to 13. It says, and these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Naboha, and Kedar, and Abdil, and Mibsam. And when you read the book of Songs of Solomon, it says, I am black and comely as the curtain of Solomon, as the tents of Kedar. Kedar means black, for those that don't know. Verse 16, these are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations. We just read out the history book that it's 12 tribes, just like the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. Another history book, Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 256 and 257, identifying Ishmael by his name Ishmaelite. Ishmaelite, a descendant of Ishmael, the son of Abraham and Hagar. The 12 sons of Ishmael and his Egyptian wife became princes and progenitors of many tribes. They lived in camps in the desert of northern Arabia. So it shows and proves that they are Arabians. says Northern Arabia, although occasionally some of them settled down as the Nabateans. That's another name for Ishmael. You got the Ishmaelites, you got the Midianites, and you got the Nabateans. Now the Bible don't talk about the Nabateans, but if you have an apocrypha, it tells you about some Nabateans. But you can also look it up in world history. It says mostly, however, they lived like Ishmael, a wild man of the desert. That's Genesis 16, verse 12. And also like him, they were famous for their skill with the bow. Joseph was sold by his brother to some Ishmaelites in Genesis 37, verses 25 through 28. All Arabs following Muhammad's example claim descent from Ishmael. So, now here's another history book, Babylon and Timbuktu. And this is page 44. And this is talking about Muhammad, the creator of the religion Islam. It says, page 44, at the birth of Islam. At the time of the birth of Muhammad, what were the international events or conditions operating? The answer to this question is necessary for a comprehension of the rapid emergence of the Mohammedan Empire. The Roman Empire at the birth of Muhammad was divided into two parts: the Western Empire with the capital at Rome, and the Byzantine Empire with the capital at Constantinople or Istanbul. The Roman Empire in the West collapsed 476 AD after many barbarian raids and incursions. The Germanic tribes crossed the borders and penetrated into all the territories of the Western Empire, including Africa. I'm not supposed to read that part. Let me skip down. With the defeat of Jewish and Christian power in Arabia, the stage was now set for the rise of a new power on the world scene. This new power was Arabia. The Arabian Empire, with its new religion, Islam, established the superstructure of its culture on the ruins of the Roman Empire in the Middle East, Africa, and parts of Europe. When Muhammad was born, many Arabs were still worshiping the sun, stars, spirits, and idols. The Arabs possessed 360 idols, one for each day of the year. Ain't that something? You got an idol to worship every day out the year. It said 360 idols, not 365. Just to show you how God is perfect and exact. Muhammad, let me skip down. Muhammad was born AD 570, 4 years after the death of Emperor Justinian. He was descended from the tribe of Quraysh and the family of Hashem. His mentality was prodigious. In his youth, he was never taught to read or write. So that means he lacked an education, right? Okay.
Right.
Okay, but his imagination was superlative. Whoa, that means he had a vivid imagination. And I know, we all know some people with some vivid imagination.
Oh, yeah.
You know, stuff that movies are made of. Said Muhammad was an extraordinarily handsome man. Oh, so he was a pretty boy too. He didn't have an education, but he was fine to the women. Said he was an extraordinarily handsome man and eloquent in motivating men with the power of words. So he had that mouthpiece, so he could persuade people to follow him. And he was good looking, easy on the eyes. I'm gonna skip down. After Muhammad became a camel driver, he traveled to remote and intriguing lands. I'm gonna skip down. Muhammad learned and extracted much from the Jewish religion and compounded it with his new religion, Islam. Page 46. Muhammad gradually came to believe that he was a prophet. Whoa. He came to believe he was a prophet. So that means he was a little puffed up in the head, and expounded his religion to members of his family. He went out to the holy temple to preach to the multitudes that gathered to worship the idols. With the words, the first phase of the Islamic Revolution began, La ilaha illa Allah, Muhammad Rasul Allah. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the prophet of Allah. Well, that's a little puffed up right there because he put his own name in worshiping his God.
Right.
But that could be another lesson. Now I'm gonna turn to page 48. It says the prophet Muhammad adopted many principles and laws from the Jewish religion, which means what? He got his doctrine from the Bible. First of all, the basic idea of monotheism, that's the belief in one God. The Jewish, okay, I'm not gonna read all that. Muhammad adopted also the main details of the Jewish calendar, the Day of Atonement, the Sabbath, much of the Bible, and narratives from the Midrash, and many points of the ritual law. Now I'm bringing this to you because many years ago, in my young and dumb days, I wanted to be Muslim. And I used to attend Muslim meetings every week. And what day was they on? Friday. That's right. Friday evening. Because they know when the Sabbath is. You know, they also pray 5 times a day. But David, King David, a man after the Lord's own heart, prayed 7 times a day. You just show you how man's mind is. He wants to do things his way instead of God's way. Wanting to be a Muslim, going to those meetings, you know, it was all good with the brotherhood and everything, but yeah, even to this, not until recent years, I didn't know why we didn't eat pork. You know, I would always hear, you know, Muslims say, you know, I don't eat pork. And I was like, oh, okay, well, why? Nobody never explained that to me until I read it out of the Bible. That's a shame. Oh, man. Let me get off on my own, though. Page 49 says, in order to win the pagans into the church, Christianity adopted many barbaric customs and traditions. Likewise, Muhammad, to gain the loyalty of the pagan Arabs, adopted many of their beloved customs. The Kaaba stone, an idol, was to receive high regard in the new religion. Also, the pagan temple at Mecca, still over there today, was to remain as a holy site. So, I'm gonna show you some facts later on that is contrary to popular belief. Because it says this was a holy site, but their doctrine is unholy. So that's a big contradiction. And don't get me wrong, because I know some Arabians, I know some, you know, people of different nationalities. I was never raised to be prejudiced or anything. But when you see, like maybe last week or the week before, I used to worship this star right here, the so-called Star of David. Then when I got to my 19, 20, 21 years, I started following after Islam. So that's worshiping a 5-point star. So how am I gonna jump from worshiping one idol to the next? You can't do it. You got to find the truth. And the Bible says, don't do no idolatry. You know what I'm saying? You either all in or all out. Do it God's way or no way. It's just that simple. So, where am I? Babylon, Timbuktu? Okay. Let's go back to the Bible. Deuteronomy 13. Deuteronomy chapter 13. Beginning with verse 1. Because remember, I read in the history book that Muhammad thought in his mind to be that he was a prophet. Let's see what the Bible says about that. Deuteronomy 13, beginning with verse 1. Verse 1. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods. Uh-oh. After other gods? Are you kidding me? which thou hast not known, and let us serve him. Verse 3, thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet. Ain't that clear? Don't listen to him. I don't care how fine he look. I don't care how good he is with his words. I don't care, what the physical thing is. You got to look at matters of the heart. You got to look at spiritual things. He said, don't listen to that prophet, which thou hast not known, and let us serve it. Verse 3, thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God proveth you, to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Verse 4, ye shall walk after the Lord your God, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him, and cleave unto him. Verse 5, and that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has spoken to turn you away from the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way which the Lord thy God commanded thee to walk in. So shalt thou put the evil away from the midst of thee. Now, let's go to Deuteronomy 23. And this is to show you, I'm about to switch gears, because I'm about to show you who somebody else that is portrayed as somebody, and they saying this. Okay, bottom line is, you ever heard on Facebook, Moab and Ammon is China and Japan? Okay. Well, that is a lie. We're about to clear it up. But first, let me read Deuteronomy 23. Verse 3, beginning with verse 3. It says, an Ammonite or Moabite not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to the 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever. How long? Forever. Verse 4, because they met you not with bread and with water in the way when ye came forth out of Egypt. And because they hired against thee Balaam the son of Beor of Pethor of Mesopotamia to curse thee. Nevertheless, the Lord thy God would not hearken unto Balaam, but the Lord thy God turned the curse into a blessing unto thee, because the Lord thy God loved thee. Thou shalt not seek their peace nor their prosperity all thy days forever. Thou shalt not, verse 7, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite. Okay, a lot of my Hebrew brothers say, Esau is the white man, and white man is the devil, and they banging on Esau. Okay, what is the condition of your heart? To love your brother, love your fellow man. I mean, we know we got some wicked people in the world, all different nationalities. Let them do their thing. You just make sure that you doing the right thing to get in God's kingdom. You can't have a wicked heart, because he knows your thoughts. And if your thoughts is wicked, and we're going to be judged on every, not just our works, but every idle word that come out of our mouth, and it's wicked, talking like banging on Esau, and we're going to kill you, and you're going to be under our footstool, we're going to make you our slave, you're going to have another thing coming. Because you got to be humble in this thing sometime, and Lord say in the wilderness, he's going to purge out the rebels. Says, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou was a stranger in his land. Verse 8, the children that are begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of the Lord in their 3rd generation. So that's just another thing to show that salvation for everybody that walk this walk. All right. Now I read that because Ammonites and Moabites, ancient Ammonites and Moabites were always against the children of Israel. I want to show you today, who are they? Who are the Ammonites and Moabites? Are they Chinese and Japanese? No. This is another history book, Unger's Bible Dictionary, page 45. I don't have the actual book, like I said earlier, but I got a printout. It says Ammonites, a nomadic race descended from Lot's youngest daughter, as the more civilized Moabites were from the elder one. Genesis 19, verses 36 through 38. The two tribes were so connected that their names seem sometimes to have been used interchangeably. Like, example, Deuteronomy 23 and 4, with Numbers 22 and 2 through 7. Now, I'm going to skip down. It says, although the Israelites were forbidden to molest the Ammonites, Ammon was often in league with other nations against Israel, as with Moab. Deuteronomy 23, 3 and 4, with Moab and Amalek. You know who Amalek is? Amalek is another branch of Edomites. They were in league with Edomites against our forefathers. And that example right there, Judges chapter 3, verse 13. Okay, they were also in league with the Syrians. 2 Samuel 10, verses 1 through 19. With Gebal and Amalek. There go Amalek again. Psalm 83, verse 7. And was almost always hostile both before and after the Babylonian captivity. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 3. Hey, Zion. Hey, baby. It says, in the time of Justin Martyr, about 150 AD, the Ammonites were quite numerous. But in the time of Oregon, about 186 to 254 AD, they were merged with the Arabs. And another history book, which one is it? See, is this it? No. Yeah, and also in Funk and Wagnalls, you could read the same thing, worded a little differently. It says that they were assimilated into the Arab nations. So ancient Ammonites today merged with the Arab nations. And that might boggle some minds, because we've been hearing for years that the Chinese and the Japanese is Moab and Ammon, or the Moabites and the Ammonites. Just like, you know, they're pushing a lie, because first and foremost, Chinese and Japanese come out of the seed of Japheth, which are Gentiles. Lot's children, which come out of Ammon, and the Ammonites and the Moabites come out of the seed of Shem. They cannot be one and the same. It don't make sense. It don't make sense, and we just cleared it up. So, anybody tell you, just like they pushing that lie with that 12 tribe chart. My 12 tribe chart says to be continued, because we don't know what tribe we come out of, because we've been scattered for thousands of years. But it is a big probability that we come out of Judah, Levi, and Benjamin. Thank you, sister. Thank you. That's right. It is a big probability, but you know, we've been scattered so long, we don't know which ones we come out of, and that's why it's so important to get this thing right, to make it to the first resurrection, so all that stuff be revealed. Now, okay, Ammonites assimilated into Arab nations. Okay, turn the Bible to Psalm 83, just to show and prove that Ammonites, as well as other nations, was against the children of God, the children of Israel. Psalm 83. Because these history books are from unbiased sources. And I read from you two sources, because the books say with two or more is a matter established. Psalm 83, beginning with verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult. So the Lord's enemies make a tumult. We're going to see what that's about. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. They've taken crafty counsel against the Lord's people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. And who is that? That's Israel. Who the only nation on this planet don't know who they are? That's us, all day, every day. Verse 4, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. And they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Who was the top two on the list? Verse 6, the tabernacles of Edom. Those are Edomites. Okay? And the Ishmaelites of Moab. Top two on the list. They fighting over land that ain't promised to neither one of them to this day. Fighting over land, somebody else's land. But they agree on this one thing, to keep you hid from the world. And they know it. Matter of fact, in the 60s, before my time, in the late 60s, an Egyptian Arabian president, he said out of his own mouth, and it flew past people like a bullet, he said, we cannot accept you. And he was talking to the Edomites. He said, we cannot accept you because you left here black and came back white. So they know the truth, but they ain't gonna tell you to keep you hidden. That's just how it is. Where was I? Oh, thanks. Okay, let me read verse 6 again. The tabernacles of Edom, that's the Edomites, and the Ishmaelites of Moab. Okay, and the Hagarenes. Verse 7, Gebal and Ammon, there go Moab and Ammon, in these nations that were against the children of Israel. But then again, even to this day, because this is prophecy. So the Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Verse 8, Assur also is joined with them. Got the Assyrians in there. They have holpen the children of Lot. The children of Lot is Ammon and Moab. So that's just confirmed. Verse 9, do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kizon. Because in ancient times, the Midianites, I believe the Lord wanted Moses to go and whoop on the Midianites. Because, like I read earlier, that they would not let the children of Israel pass through their land when they came out of Egypt. All right, now, that's Psalm 83. Okay, let me give you since I did mention it, turn to Nehemiah chapter 4. Nehemiah chapter 4. That's right after Chronicles and Esther and Ezra. Nehemiah chapter 4 and one verse. Verse 3 says, now Tobiah the Ammonite was by him, and he said, even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall. See, they didn't want the Israelites to prosper. This is a shame how a whole nation of people can be against the people of God. Or anybody for that matter. Now, turn to Genesis, no, I'm going to skip that. I was going to go to Genesis 17, where it says Ishmael had 12 princes. We read that in the history book. I got a link posted. It says, last to give up slavery was an Arab country, Mauritania. See link below. Slavery in the Arab world. This ain't in the lesson, but I brought this other history book. This is slavery in the Arab world. Let me get up close so I can see it. I don't think I presented it yet. Slavery in the Arab world. Page 18 and 19, then I'm gonna go to page 79. Because this is talking about slavery, right? It says, No, page 18, when the prophet Muhammad brought the message of Allah to his followers in the 7th century, slavery was already a deeply rooted and widely accepted institution in that part of the world. Pre-Islamic Arabia and Egypt were terminal points of well-traveled slave trade circuits, some of the most important of which originated in the Sudan and Somalia. The Bilad as Sudan, the land of the blacks, had for time immemorial attracted slave raiders who found a ready demand for their captives in nearby Egypt. It was not surprising that Mohammed, who accepted the existing socio-political order, looked upon slavery as part of the natural order of things. What that means is he didn't have a problem with slavery. I'm pointing something out to you. Because read in Babylon, Timbuktu, that they had idols to worship every day. And they had the cobblestone. These are the same people that say that they gonna go to paradise if they blow themselves up and everybody else around them. This is their religious doctrine. Now, page 79 of this same book. Says sex and slavery in the Arab world. The most common and enduring purpose for acquiring slaves in the Arab world was to exploit them for sexual purposes. Islamic law conferred upon the owner of slaves full control over their sexual and reproductive functions, as well as the fruits of their labor. So they was cool with slavery. But I thought they were supposed to be holy. No, that's a major contradiction. Now, this other link that I got, I printed it out, and it's talking about history of slavery in the Muslim world. It says, women in the Ottoman Empire were treated very similarly to those in Morocco and the Barbary states. Women were put into a subservient category because of their putative physical and moral weaknesses. Talking down on women, which rendered them subject to men. That's why you got them being so extreme. See, they know the Bible, they know women supposed to have their head covered, but they cover their whole bodies. I mean, that don't make sense. It says, this was mostly because of decontextualized scriptural snippets from the Quran, which played an important role in authorizing women's social marginalization. Islamic law is primarily based on the Quran. Because of the way it is written, there is a general acceptance of women and girls as sexual commodities. And that still ain't changed. They still got sex slaves today. So this is what they think of their women. They want to belittle their women, treat them as slaves, sex slaves. But I'm about to read you something out of the last 2 million years. Last 2 million years, page 148, 149. An empire built in the name of Allah. So at the beginning of the 7th century, the Arabian Peninsula seemed doomed to a state of perpetual and exhausting small-scale warfare, as tribe class would tribe over grazing rights and water holes. Less than a century later, the Arabs have burst far beyond the desert wastes of their homeland, and by AD 732, they ruled an empire that stretched from the Pyrenees to the borders of India, larger than the Roman Empire at its height. The force behind this explosion of Arab energies was a new faith, Islam, which means submission to the will of God. Its founder, Muhammad, was a man of political and religious genius. He was a genius, but he didn't have no education. Does that make sense? Religious genius, political and religious genius whose message that there is only one God, Allah, united the warring Bedouin and was eagerly accepted by millions in the lands they conquered. According to tradition, Islam was spread by warriors holding the Quran in one hand and a sword in the other. But the picture is false. though forced conversions did occur, they were the exception, not the rule. Islam had much to offer the faithful. It proclaimed that all men were equal before Allah. Hypocrisy is their democracy, just like the world. Because if you say by your religion, quote unquote, that all men are equal before Allah, but you treat your women like crap, you think slavery is okay, it's cool, you think it's cool to worship idols and pagan deities, that is a big contradiction. It don't make sense. It don't make common sense. So, turn to Revelation 22. Let's see what the Bible says. And this will be last. Revelation 22. Beginning with verse 12. Revelation 22 and verse 12. Verse 12. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me. This is Jesus talking. To give every man according as his work shall be. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. Verse 16, I, Jesus, have sent my angel unto the churches. I have Jesus have sent my angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and offspring of David and the bright and morning star. So we just read what Jesus said in Revelation 22, that outside his kingdom is going, who ain't going to make it into his kingdom are dogs, sorcerers, whoremongers, murderers. Because I forgot to read to you in the last 2 million years that they are a tribe of fighters. They think they going to paradise if they kill somebody. That's why they have suicide bombers. It says murderers and idolaters and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. I'm here to tell you. I know a lot of brothers that want to serve Islam, and they're some good-hearted brothers. But the doctrine that they are raised in or taught is wrong. Because you're not going to go to heaven, you're not going to go to paradise killing somebody. Just common sense tells you better than that. You're not going to go to paradise having sex slaves. You're not going to go to paradise doing all this stuff contrary to righteousness. So that's why I thank God I had to come out of it, because like we read that Mohammed was a good-looking guy, very great with the mouthpiece, and highly influential. You know, there's a lot of people out there. That's why the Bible tells us to beware of false prophets. And the creator of this religion, Islam, thought to himself to be a prophet. You know, it's funny how the Quran has Jesus in it, but the Bible don't talk about the Quran. You know, it may talk about it not distinctively, but it says that you only need one book, and that's the Bible. It said don't add none to his word and don't take none from it. So that's the lesson. Who is Ishmael? He is not Esau. And we also showed you that Ammonites and Moabites are not Chinese and Japanese. They come out of the seed of Shem. So that's the lesson. Who is Ishmael? I hope somebody got some understanding, and I thank you for your time. And we won't have announcements today. So let's stand and face Jerusalem and close out. Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done
thy will be done
in earth
in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day
Give us this day
our daily bread,
our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts
and forgive us our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not
And lead us not
into temptation,
into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Amman, that's another country where the Arabs dwell. But I mean, I worked at when I was at Guild, I worked at I